Commander Jake Morrison floated in the observation deck of Deep Space Station Neptune 7, watching the stars through the massive viewing window. The coffee in his magnetic cup had gone cold hours ago, but he did not care. Something was wrong with the readings on his screens, and it had been bothering him for 3 weeks now. The station was humanity's farthest outpost, built on a large asteroid that orbited Neptune. Most people thought it was just a research facility, but Jake knew better. The station watched for threats from deep space, threats that might come from beyond the solar system. For 20 years, it had been quiet. Now that quiet was broken. Dr. Lisa Carter rushed into the observation deck, her tablet in her hand and worry on her face. She had been working in the lab for days, checking and double-checking the data that their sensors had picked up. Jake turned to face her, already knowing that whatever she had found would change everything. "Jake, you need to see this," Lisa said, her voice shaking slightly. "The gravitational anomalies we have been tracking are not natural. They are ships, massive ones, and there are dozens of them." Jake took the tablet from her hands and looked at the data. The numbers made his blood run cold. Each object was the size of a small moon, far larger than anything humanity had ever built. They were moving in formation, heading straight toward the inner solar system, toward Earth. "How long before they reach us?" Jake asked, though he already feared the answer. "At their current speed, 72 hours, Lisa replied. "Maybe less." Jake activated the station's emergency protocols with a few quick commands on his console. Red lights began flashing throughout the station, and alarms sounded in every section. Within minutes, his crew was at their posts, waiting for orders. Jake opened a secure channel to Earth Command and General Patricia Hayes. The transmission took several minutes to reach Earth, and several more for the reply to come back. When General Hayes appeared on the screen, her face was grim but not surprised. Jake realized that Earth had been expecting this day for a long time. "Commander Morrison, we are tracking the same objects," General Hayes said. "Project Guardian is now active." "You know what that means." Jake nodded. Project Guardian was humanity's greatest secret, a defense plan that had been in development for decades. Every person in the outer system with security clearance had been briefed on it, but none of them had expected to see it activated in their lifetime. Before Jake could respond, every screen in the station lit up with an incoming transmission. The signal was powerful, overriding all of their communication systems. An alien face appeared on the screens, reptilian and cold, with golden eyes that seemed to look right through them. "Primitive humans of the third planet," the alien said, its voice translated by some kind of universal device. "I am Admiral Zexthara of the Corvan Empire. Your species has been selected for cleansing. Your world possesses resources that the Empire requires, and your people are deemed unnecessary for galactic progress." Jake felt his hands clench into fists as the alien continued speaking. "You have 72 hours to surrender your world completely. Remove all defensive installations, ground all spacecraft, and prepare for processing. Any resistance will result in the complete destruction of your planet and every human in this solar system. This is your only warning." The transmission ended, leaving the station in silence. Jake looked around at his crew, seeing fear and anger on their faces. But there was something else there too, something that the alien had not expected to find. Determination. Jake opened another channel, this time to Captain Ryan Brooks aboard the stealth ship Valiant. The ship had been disguised as a cargo hauler for years, but Jake knew it was actually one of humanity's most advanced warships. "Ryan, did you receive that transmission?" Jake asked. "We got it, Jake," Captain Brooks replied. "And we are already moving into position. The hidden fleet is activating across the system. Mars Command is bringing their weapons online, and the asteroid mining stations are revealing their true purpose." Lisa looked confused. "What hidden fleet? What are you talking about?" Jake turned to her with a slight smile. Lisa, what did you think humanity has been doing for the past 50 years? We knew this day would come eventually. Every deep space station, every mining operation, every research facility has been part of the plan. We have been preparing for war since we first looked at the stars and wondered what else might be out there. On the main screen, Jake brought up a tactical display of the solar system. What had appeared to be peaceful civilian installations suddenly showed their true nature. Weapons platforms hidden in asteroid fields, warships disguised as transport vessels, and manufacturing facilities that had been secretly producing military equipment for decades. The aliens think they are attacking a primitive world with simple rockets and nuclear weapons. Jake continued. They have no idea what humanity is really capable of when we are fighting for our survival. General Hayes appeared on screen again, this time addressing the entire station. All personnel, this is General Hayes. Operation Guardian is now in full effect. We are not going to let these aliens take our world without the fight of their lives. Every human in this system has trained for this moment. Every installation has been built for this purpose. We are not helpless, and we are not primitive. We are humanity, and we are going to show these invaders what that means. Jake felt a surge of pride as he looked around the observation deck. Dr. Lisa Carter was already working on analyzing the alien technology from their transmission. His crew was manning their stations with calm efficiency, ready to do their part in humanity's greatest battle. The countdown had begun. In less than 3 days, the most powerful empire in the galaxy would learn that they had made a terrible mistake. They had chosen to attack not just another primitive world, but a species that had spent generations preparing for this exact moment. Earth was ready for war, and humanity would fight with everything they had to protect their home. The aliens were about to discover why humans had survived and thrived on one of the most dangerous planets in the galaxy. General Patricia Hayes stood in the war room beneath Colorado Springs, watching as dozens of screens came alive with activity across the solar system. For 30 years, she had overseen Project Guardian, and now the moment she had prepared for was finally here. The Corvin Empire thought they were attacking a defenseless world, but they were about to learn how wrong they were. Activate all sleeper cells, Patricia ordered into her headset. It is time to show our true strength. Across Earth, hidden facilities began powering up. What had appeared to be normal office buildings revealed themselves as command centers. Peaceful research stations in orbit suddenly bristled with weapons that had been concealed for decades. The International Space Station, which tourists visited regularly, transformed into a heavily armed battle platform. Captain Ryan Brooks was already in position near the asteroid belt when the first alien scouts entered the solar system. His ship, the Valiant, had spent years disguised as a simple cargo hauler, but now its true nature was revealed. Advanced plasma cannons emerged from hidden compartments, and its hull shimmered as stealth systems activated. Ghost Squadron, this is Captain Brooks, Ryan spoke into his communicator. All ships, drop your disguises and prepare for combat. Let us give these aliens their first surprise. Around him, 30 other ships that had been masquerading as miners and transport vessels suddenly revealed their weapons. The Corvin scouts had expected to find a few primitive spacecraft. Instead, they found themselves facing a coordinated fleet of advanced warships that had been waiting in ambush. The first battle was swift and decisive. The alien scouts, confident in their technological superiority, flew directly into the trap. Human ships used tactics the aliens had never seen before, hiding behind asteroids and using the debris field as cover. When the Corvin vessels tried to pursue, they found themselves flying into carefully placed gravitational mines that Ryan's people had been setting for years. Back on Mars, engineer Danny Roberts was working frantically in the underground facilities. Beneath Olympus Mons, The Red Planet's civilian population believed they lived in simple mining colonies, but the truth was far different. Mars had been converted into humanity's primary weapons manufacturing center, hidden beneath a facade of terraforming research. "How many ships can we have ready in the next 48 hours?" Danny asked his team as they worked to retrofit civilian spacecraft with military hardware. "At least 200, replied his assistant, Maria Santos. "The weapon systems have been prefabricated for years. We just need to install them and run the final tests." Danny nodded, wiping sweat from his forehead. His innovations in adaptive weapons technology had given human ships a crucial advantage. Unlike the aliens, who relied on standardized equipment, human weapons could be modified and upgraded during battle, adapting to whatever the enemy threw at them. Dr. Lisa Carter made a breakthrough while analyzing the alien transmission from deep Space Station Neptune 7. She had been studying the Corvan language and technology, looking for weaknesses that humanity could exploit. "Jake, I think I found something important," Lisa said, excitement in her voice as she called Commander Morrison to her lab. "The aliens rely heavily on artificial intelligence for their ship operations. Their computers make most of their tactical decisions." Jake looked at the data on her screen, trying to understand what she had discovered. "What does that mean for us?" "It means they think in patterns," Lisa explained. "Their AI systems are designed to calculate the most efficient solutions to problems. But humans do not think like that. We are chaotic, unpredictable, emotional. We make decisions that do not make logical sense, and that might be exactly what we need to win." Meanwhile, the second wave of Corvan ships had arrived at the outer system, expecting to find the wreckage of their scouts and a clear path to Earth. Instead, they encountered Captain Brooks and his expanded fleet, now reinforced with ships from the hidden bases on Europa and Titan Dot. The aliens had superior weapons and stronger shields, but they could not understand human tactics. Ryan's pilots flew their ships in ways that violated every principle of efficient space combat. They used solar flares as cover, diving close to the sun where the radiation would mask their signatures. They hid in the rings of Saturn, using the Saturn ice particles to confuse enemy sensors. When the Corvan commander tried to adapt to these unusual tactics, he found that the humans had already moved on to something completely different. One moment they were fighting like a disciplined military force. The next they were attacking with the wild unpredictability of pirates and raiders. Hayes watched the battle reports with satisfaction. The alien invasion fleet was larger and more powerful than anything humanity had ever faced, but they were fighting the war they had planned to fight, not the war that humans were actually giving them. "Status report from all sectors," Patricia ordered. The responses came in quickly from around the solar system. Jupiter's moons had revealed massive weapon platforms that had been disguised as research stations. The asteroid belt was proving to be a maze of hidden bases and defensive installations. Even Venus, which everyone thought was uninhabitable, had concealed facilities in the upper atmosphere. But the biggest surprise was still to come. Deep beneath Earth's oceans, submarine bases that the public had never known about began launching. Spacecraft that had been built in underwater shipyards. These vessels had been designed specifically for surprise attacks, capable of emerging from planetary atmospheres without warning. The Corvan Empire had faced many primitive species before, always crushing them with overwhelming technological superiority. But they had never encountered a species that had spent decades turning their entire solar system into an elaborate trap, or a people who could fight with such unpredictable creativity. As the second day of the war began, Admiral Zextara realized that his easy conquest was turning into something much more difficult. The humans were not simply defending their world, they were actively hunting his ships throughout the solar system. Worse, they seemed to be enjoying the fight. Danny Roberts completed the first batch of upgraded human warships just as the third wave of alien reinforcements arrived. These new vessels combined human ingenuity with reverse-engineered alien technology, creating hybrid ships that the Corvan computers could not categorize or predict. The tide of battle was beginning to turn, and the galaxy was about to learn that humanity's greatest weapon was not any particular technology or strategy, but their absolute refusal to give up when everything they loved was at stake. The war exploded across the entire solar system as Admiral Zixtara committed the full might of the Corvan invasion fleet. Hundreds of massive alien warships spread throughout human space, each one capable of destroying entire cities. But they found that humanity had turned every planet, every moon, and every asteroid into part of an enormous defensive network. Captain Ryan Brooks led the desperate defense of Mars as alien dropships attempted to land on the red planet's surface. The Corvan forces expected to find simple mining colonies, but instead they encountered underground military installations that had been hidden for decades. Human fighters emerged from concealed hangars built into the canyon walls, while surface batteries that had been disguised as mining equipment opened fire with devastating effect. All units used the dust storms as cover, Ryan commanded as his squadron dove through the Martian atmosphere. The aliens cannot track us through the particle interference, but our systems were designed for these conditions. The battle above Mars became a three-dimensional maze as human ships used the planet's 2 moons and orbital facilities as tactical advantages. Phobos had been secretly converted into a massive weapons platform, while Dymas served as a hidden shipyard where Danny Roberts' latest creations were being launched directly into combat. Meanwhile, on Europa, Commander Jake Morrison was preparing humanity's most dangerous gambit. The ice moon had been slowly converted over 20 years into something unprecedented in human engineering. Beneath its frozen surface, a railgun had been constructed that stretched nearly a quarter of the moon's circumference. The weapon was designed to launch projectiles at incredible speeds, but it required enormous amounts of power and time to charge. "How much longer do we need?" Jake asked his chief engineer as Corvan assault troops landed on Europa's surface. 6 more hours for a full charge," came the reply. "But the aliens will break through our defenses long before then." Jake looked at the tactical display showing enemy forces advancing through the ice tunnels his people had spent years creating. Every passage had been designed as a killing ground, with hidden weapons and defensive positions, but there were simply too many attackers. "Then we hold for 6 hours," Jake said grimly. "Whatever it takes." The battle for Europa became the most vicious ground combat of the war. Human defenders used their knowledge of the tunnel system to launch guerrilla attacks against the alien soldiers. They collapsed passages to trap enemy units, flooded chambers with liquid nitrogen, and turned the moon's low gravity into a tactical advantage. Dr. Lisa Carter worked frantically with Danny Roberts in a hidden laboratory on Ceres, the largest asteroid in the belt. Together, they were developing humanity's most ambitious secret weapon, a computer virus specifically designed to attack Corvan artificial intelligence systems. Lisa's understanding of alien psychology combined with Danny's technical expertise to create something the Empire had never encountered. Their AI systems are incredibly advanced, but they all share the same basic architecture, Lisa explained. As she worked, "If we can introduce chaos into their decision-making processes, we can turn their own efficiency against them. The virus will spread through their communication networks," Danny added, modifying the code. "Every time their computers try to coordinate an attack, the virus will introduce random errors and conflicting commands." As they worked, the asteroid belt around them had become a war zone. Human miners who had spent years secretly preparing defensive positions used their intimate knowledge of the asteroids to outmaneuver the larger alien ships. Small human vessels darted between rocks and debris, launching hit-and-run attacks before disappearing into the maze of spinning stones and ice dot. A turning point came when General Patricia Hayes coordinated a simultaneous strike across 12 different fronts. From her command center beneath Earth, she had been tracking every battle throughout the solar system, waiting for the perfect moment to reveal humanity's final surprise. All hidden assets. This is General Hayes. She broadcast on a secure channel that reached every concealed installation in the solar system. Execute Operation Revelation. Show them what we really are. Across human space, installations that had never revealed their true purpose suddenly came online. Weapon platforms emerged from the clouds of Venus, their crews having survived in the harsh environment through technology the aliens thought impossible. Jupiter's Great Red Spot was revealed to contain a massive space station that had been using the storm's energy to power weapons beyond anything the Corvan Empire had seen. Even Earth's own atmosphere became a battlefield as hidden launch facilities in the ocean depths began deploying fighters that had been built specifically for atmospheric combat. These vessels could operate equally well in space or air, giving human forces unprecedented tactical flexibility. The largest battle developed around Jupiter as both sides committed their most powerful forces. Admiral Zexthara personally led the Corvan fleet, his flagship a massive dreadnought that dwarfed anything humanity had ever built. But the humans had prepared for this moment as well. Captain Brooks coordinated with dozens of other human commanders as they implemented a battle plan that had been decades in the making. Using Jupiter's moons as cover, human ships attacked from multiple directions simultaneously. They used the planet's powerful magnetic field to disrupt alien sensors and launched weapons that could track targets through the radiation-filled environment. But the most devastating surprise came when Danny, Robert's latest creation, was finally revealed. Working with salvaged alien technology, he had developed weapons that could adapt and evolve during combat. Human missiles learned from each attack, becoming more effective with every shot. Energy weapons adjusted their frequency to penetrate alien shields more efficiently. The Corvan forces found themselves fighting an enemy that was literally getting stronger as the battle progressed. Their advanced technology, which had conquered hundreds of worlds, was being turned against them by a species that refused to fight by the rules of civilized warfare. As the third day of the war dawned, Admiral Zexthara realized that his invasion was failing. The humans had not only survived his overwhelming assault, they had fought his forces to a standstill throughout the entire solar system. Worse, they showed no signs of weakening or surrendering. Commander Morrison's team on Europa finally completed their massive railgun as alien forces breached the final defensive perimeter. With enemy soldiers only minutes away from the control room, Jake gave the order to fire. The projectile that emerged from Europa's surface traveled at nearly 10% of light speed, striking the Corvan command ship with the force of a nuclear weapon. The destruction of the alien flagship sent shockwaves through the Empire's forces, but it also sent a message that reached far beyond the solar system. Humanity was not just defending their world, they were proving that even the mightiest Galactic Empire could be challenged by a species with the will to fight for their freedom. With Admiral Zexthara's flagship destroyed and the Corvan invasion fleet in disarray, humanity faced a crucial decision. General Patricia Hayes stood in Earth Command, surrounded by tactical displays showing the battered remains of both fleets. The aliens were retreating to the outer system, regrouping for another assault. But Captain Ryan Brooks had a different idea entirely. "General, we cannot just wait for them to come back stronger," Ryan argued during an emergency strategy meeting. "They will bring reinforcements, bigger ships, maybe even planet-killing weapons. We need to take the fight to them before they can recover." Patricia studied the star charts showing Corvan territory beyond the solar system. It was an enormous risk, sending human forces into completely unknown space with captured alien technology and incomplete intelligence. But Ryan was right about one thing. The Empire would not give up after a single defeat. "What are you proposing, Captain?" Patricia asked, though she already suspected what he had in mind. "A strike mission deep into their territory," Ryan replied. "We use their own ships against them, along with Dr. Carter's virus weapon. Hit their command structure before they can organize a proper counterattack." The plan that emerged was audacious beyond anything humanity had ever attempted. Ryan would lead a small fleet of captured Corvin vessels, their systems modified by Danny Roberts to accept human crews and weapons. The mission would be completely on their own, with no possibility of rescue or reinforcement if things went wrong. Dr. Lisa Carter worked around the clock to prepare the computer virus for deployment across an entire star system. Her creation had evolved during the battle for the solar system, learning from each encounter with alien technology. Now it was ready to cause chaos on a scale the Empire had never experienced. "The virus will spread through their communication networks like wildfire," Lisa explained to Ryan as his crew prepared for departure. "Once it reaches their command computers, it will start introducing errors into everything from navigation to weapons targeting. Their own efficiency will become their weakness." Ryan assembled a crew of volunteers, knowing that most of them would not survive the mission. Ace pilot Jenny Walsh was first to volunteer, her skills having been crucial. During the defense of Mars, demolitions expert Chris Taylor joined them, bringing knowledge of alien explosives that he had learned from captured equipment. But while Ryan prepared for his desperate mission, Earth faced an even greater threat. The Empire's Supreme Admiral Colvex had arrived with reinforcements, and he was nothing like the commanders humanity had faced before. Ancient even by alien standards, Colvex had personally overseen the destruction of dozens of civilizations. He took the human resistance as a personal insult. "This primitive species dares to resist the Empire," Colvex growled as he studied the tactical reports from the failed invasion. "They will learn what happens to those who defy galactic order." Commander Jake Morrison coordinated Earth's final defensive preparations from the rebuilt Europa station. The railgun had been repaired and upgraded, but Danny Roberts was working on something even more ambitious. Using technology reverse engineered from the captured alien flagship, he was developing a weapon that could destabilize the quantum fields holding the largest enemy ships together. "The theory is sound," Danny explained to Jake as they watched. His teams installed the new weapon systems. Their biggest ships use artificial gravity fields to maintain structural integrity. If we can disrupt those fields at the quantum level, even a moon-sized vessel will tear itself apart. But the weapon required precise calculations and perfect timing. They would only get one shot, and it had to be fired at exactly the right moment, when the enemy flagship was positioned correctly relative to Earth's gravitational field. Meanwhile, Ryan's strike force had crossed into Corvin territory using captured alien navigation codes. What they found horrified them. The Empire controlled hundreds of star systems, each one stripped mined of resources and emptied of native life. Entire civilizations had been erased, their worlds turned into industrial facilities serving the Empire's endless expansion. "Look at this," Jenny Walsh said softly as they passed the ruins of a once beautiful world. "They have done this to hundreds of species. We might be the first ones to actually fight back successfully." Their target was a massive space fortress that served as the regional command center for this sector of the Empire. The station was larger than Earth's moon, bristling with weapons and protected by energy shields that could stop any conventional attack. But Ryan's team was not planning a conventional assault. Chris Taylor had spent days studying the station's design, looking for weaknesses that could be exploited. The fortress was supplied by automated cargo ships that used predictable routes and schedules. If they could hijack one of those vessels and get inside the station's defenses, Lisa's virus could be uploaded directly into the command computer's dock. The infiltration went perfectly at first. Using forged identification codes, their disguised cargo, ship was allowed to dock with the fortress. Chris and his team slipped aboard during the automated unloading process, while Lisa prepared to upload her virus into the station's central computer core. But Supreme Admiral Colvex had anticipated that the humans might attempt such a desperate gambit. Security forces were waiting for them, and the mission quickly turned into a running battle through the fortress corridors. "Upload the virus," Ryan shouted to Lisa as alien soldiers closed in on their position. "Even if we do not make it out, the mission has to succeed." Lisa's fingers flew over the alien computer interface, adapting her virus to work with the fortress systems. Around her, Ryan's team fought desperately to buy her the time she needed. Jenny Walsh held off alien reinforcements, while Chris used his explosives to seal off access corridors. The virus upload completed, just as Supreme Admiral Colvex himself arrived with his personal guard. The ancient alien commander was massive. Even by Corvin standards, his armor covered with the trophies of conquered worlds. "So these are the primitive humans who think they can challenge the Empire," Colvex said, his voice filled with contempt. "Your resistance ends here." But even as he spoke, Lisa's virus was spreading through the fortress computers. Navigation. Systems began reporting false positions. Weapons targeting malfunctioned. Internal security doors opened and closed randomly. The station that had been the Empire's pride was dissolving into chaos. Ryan's team fought their way back to their ship. As the fortress's automated systems turned against each other, they escaped just as the command center's main reactor began an uncontrolled shutdown, triggered by the virus corruption of its safety systems. Behind them, the massive fortress broke apart in a series of explosions that lit up the entire star system. But more importantly, the virus had transmitted itself across the Empire's communication network before the station was destroyed. Dozens of other installations were now experiencing the same systematic failures as Ryan's battered team. Began the long journey home. They received reports that their mission had succeeded beyond their wildest hopes. The Empire's rigid command structure was collapsing as their own technology turned against them. Subject species throughout Corvin space were rising in rebellion, inspired by humanity's example, but the war was far from over. Supreme Admiral Colvex had survived the fortress destruction, and he was now personally leading the final assault on Earth. The decisive battle was about to begin, and humanity would need every advantage they could get to survive what was coming. Supreme Admiral Colvex arrived at Earth with the largest fleet the Corvin Empire had ever assembled. His personal dreadnought was a kilometer long, armed with weapons that could crack planets and protected by shields that had never been breached. He was accompanied by hundreds of warships and millions of soldiers, all sworn to erase humanity from existence. "This ends now," Colvex declared as his fleet took position around Earth. "No more games, no more surprises. I will personally oversee the destruction of every human in this system." But the ancient alien commander had underestimated both human determination and human ingenuity. While Captain Ryan Brooks was returning from his successful mission deep in enemy territory, the people of Earth had not been idle. Every remaining resource had been devoted to preparing for this final confrontation. General Patricia Hayes stood in Earth Command, watching as enemy ships filled the space around her world. The situation looked hopeless, but she had one last card to play. Danny Roberts had completed his quantum destabilizer weapon, and Commander Jake Morrison had the Europa. Railgun charged and ready to fire. "All units, this is General Hayes," Patricia broadcast to every human force in the solar system. "This is our moment. Everything we have fought for comes down to the next few hours. Show them what humanity truly means." The final battle began. When Colvex ordered his fleet to begin the systematic bombardment of Earth, but the planet's hidden defenses revealed themselves one last time. Weapon platforms emerged from the ocean floors, while orbital installations that had been carefully concealed activated their most powerful armaments. Dr. Lisa Carter's virus had been spreading through the Empire's fleet during their approach to Earth. Ships that should have been coordinating perfectly instead began experiencing navigation errors and targeting failures. The Supreme Admiral's rigid tactical formations started to break apart as individual vessels received conflicting orders from their own computers. "What is happening to our systems?" Kolvex demanded as his flagship's weapon systems began malfunctioning. "Sir, it appears to be some kind of software attack," his chief technician replied. "The humans have created a virus that specifically targets our AI systems." Kolvex roared in fury. The Empire had conquered the galaxy through technological superiority. But these primitive humans were turning that technology against itself. It was not just military defeat. It was a fundamental challenge to everything the Empire represented. Meanwhile, Commander Morrison was making final preparations for the most crucial shot in human history. The Europa railgun was pointed directly at Kolvex's flagship, but the quantum destabilizer required perfect timing to be effective. Danny Roberts had calculated that they would have only a few seconds when the alien dreadnought would be in the correct position. "Range to target, 12,000 kilometers and closing," Jake announced to his crew. Charging sequence initiated. At the same time, Captain Brooks and his strike team were racing back toward the solar system with news that would change everything. The virus they had released in Corvin space was causing rebellions throughout the Empire. Dozens of enslaved species were rising up against their oppressors, inspired by humanity's successful resistance. "General Hayes, this is Captain Brooks." Ryan transmitted as soon as his ship was in communication range. "The Empire is collapsing. Their subject worlds are in revolt, and their command structure is falling apart. If we can defeat this fleet, we might end the war completely." The tide of battle began to turn as human forces implemented their most desperate tactics. Ships that had exhausted their ammunition rammed alien vessels, their crews sacrificing themselves to take out larger targets. Ground-based weapons fired everything they had at the approaching enemy fleet, even though they knew the return fire would destroy them. But the decisive moment came when Danny Roberts gave Jake the signal he had been waiting for. The quantum destabilizer was ready, and Kolvex's flagship was moving into the perfect position relative to Earth's gravity well. "Firing Europa railgun," Jake announced, his finger hovering over the activation control. "All personnel brace for impact." The projectile that emerged from Europa's surface was unlike anything that had ever been fired in combat. Enhanced with Danny's quantum technology, it did not just strike Kolvex's flagship with kinetic force. It disrupted the fundamental forces that held the massive ship together. The alien dreadnought, which had seemed invincible moments before, began to tear itself apart from the inside. Its artificial gravity fields collapsed, causing sections of the ship to implode while others were flung away into space. The explosion that followed was visible from Earth's surface, a new star that burned for several minutes before fading away. With their supreme commander dead and their flagship destroyed, the Corvin fleet began to break apart. Ships that were still functional attempted to retreat, but many were crippled by Lisa's virus and the relentless attacks from human forces throughout the solar system. Jenny Walsh led a squadron of human fighters in pursuit of the fleeing aliens, her voice crackling over the radio as she coordinated the final assault. "This is for everyone who died defending our home," she called out as her weapons found their targets. Chris Taylor, who had survived the mission to the enemy fortress, was now leading demolition teams aboard captured alien ships. His expertise with their explosives was helping human forces salvage technology that would be crucial for the battles to come. But the most important victory was happening far beyond the solar system. Reports were flooding in from across Corvin. Space as the Empire's communication network carried news of humanity's triumph. The virus had not just disabled their ships, it had freed the information systems that had been used to suppress subject species for centuries. General Hayes stood in the war room as the last enemy ships fled the solar system, her face showing a mixture of relief and amazement. Humanity had not just survived, they had achieved something that seemed impossible. They had defeated the most powerful empire in the galaxy. "Status report from all sectors," Patricia ordered, hardly daring to believe what the displays were showing her. The reports that came in told the story of humanity's greatest victory. The Corvan Empire was in complete collapse, with rebellions spreading to every corner of their territory. The rigid command structure that had held their civilization together for thousands of years was falling apart as their own technology turned against them. Dr. Lisa Carter emerged from her laboratory with news that would reshape the galaxy. Her virus had not just caused military defeats, it had freed the historical records of dozens of conquered civilizations. The true scope of the Empire's crimes was now being broadcast across hundreds of star systems. Captain Brooks returned to Earth as a hero, but his most important contribution was the intelligence he had gathered about other species that were now fighting for their freedom. Humanity was no longer alone in their resistance to galactic tyranny. In the months that followed, Earth became the center of a new alliance of free worlds. Species that had been enslaved for generations sent representatives to meet with the humans, who had shown them that resistance was possible. General Hayes found herself coordinating not just Earth's defense, but the liberation of an entire galaxy. Commander Morrison was promoted to Admiral and given command of humanity's expanding fleet. His first mission was to help newly freed worlds establish their own defenses against any remaining Imperial forces. Danny Roberts became the director of the new Interstellar Technology Initiative, working with scientists from dozens of species to develop weapons and defenses that no future empire could overcome. His innovations in adaptive technology had given the Alliance a crucial advantage. The war had cost humanity millions of lives and left scars across the solar system that would take generations to heal. But it had also proven something that the galaxy had forgotten, that freedom was worth fighting for, and that even the mightiest oppressor could be defeated by those who refused to surrender. The Corvan Empire had targeted Earth expecting an easy conquest. Instead, they had awakened humanity's greatest strength and triggered their own complete destruction. The age of galactic tyranny was ending, and the age of human leadership among the stars had begun. The galaxy had learned that when you threaten humanity's home, you face not just one world, but a species that will fight with everything they have to protect not only themselves, but anyone else who yearns for freedom. Years later, children across hundreds of worlds would learn about the day when humanity stood against impossible odds and won. They would hear stories of Captain Brooks and his desperate mission into enemy territory, of Commander Morrison and his impossible shot from Europa, of Dr. Carter and her virus that turned the Empire's strength into weakness. But most importantly, they would learn that freedom is never given freely. It must be earned through courage, sacrifice, and the absolute refusal to bow down to those who would take it away. Humanity had taught the galaxy that lesson, and it was one that would never be forgotten. The Corvan Empire was gone, destroyed by their own arrogance and the determination of a species they had foolishly underestimated. In its place rose a new galactic civilization, one built on cooperation instead of conquest, on freedom instead of slavery. And at the heart of it all was Earth, the small blue world whose Pio